The silk sheets were still warm when I heard Nathan's car in the driveway, 2 hours earlier than expected. My heart stopped as Julian scrambled for his clothes, his face pale with panic. "You said he wouldn't be back until midnight," he whispered harshly, pulling on his shirt inside out. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I had been so careful, so meticulous in my planning. For months, I'd orchestrated these stolen moments with surgical precision. Nathan's predictable schedule as a project manager made it almost too easy. Tuesday nights were his late meetings, Thursday evenings his client dinners, and Saturdays his golf games that stretched until dark. I knew his routines better than he did. "Isolde, what do we do?" Julian's voice cracked with fear as he grabbed his jacket from our bedroom chair, the chair where Nathan hung his work clothes every night for 7 years of marriage. "Bathroom window," I hissed, my mind racing through damage control scenarios. "Climb onto the garage roof and jump down by the fence. Your car is parked 3 blocks away, remember?" The front door's familiar creak echoed through our 2-story colonial home. Nathan was inside. Julian's eyes went wide as he realized the bathroom window plan was his only escape route. At 29, he was athletic enough to manage it, but the risk made him sweat. "This is insane, Isolde. I can't keep doing this." "Just go," I snapped, already smoothing the bed sheets and spraying air freshener. "We'll talk tomorrow at the office." As Julian disappeared into our ensuite bathroom, I heard Nathan's heavy footsteps on the hardwood stairs. Each step felt like a countdown to disaster. I quickly changed into my silk pajamas and grabbed a book from my nightstand, arranging myself casually on the bed as if I'd been reading all evening. The bedroom door opened just as I heard the bathroom window slide shut. "Hey, honey," Nathan said, his voice carrying that familiar tone of exhaustion mixed with surprise. "You're up late. Thought you'd be asleep by now." Nathan Fenwick at 34 was everything a responsible husband should be. Reliable, hard-working, devoted to our 7-year-old daughter Ella. His dark hair was beginning to show silver at the temples, and his green eyes held the kind of steady warmth that had attracted me a decade ago. But somewhere along the way, that stability had become suffocating predictability. "Couldn't sleep," I replied, not looking up from my book. "How was your meeting?" "You're back early." "Client cancelled last minute. Decided to come home instead of grabbing drinks with the team." He loosened his tie, studying my face with those perceptive eyes. "Everything okay? You seem tense." This was the moment I'd rehearsed 100 times. The key to successful deception was staying calm, controlling the narrative, and never giving him reason to dig deeper. "Just work stress," I said, finally meeting his gaze with what I hoped looked like tired authenticity. "The quarterly reports are due Friday, and my boss is breathing down my neck about the client retention analysis." Nathan nodded, accepting my explanation as he always did. His trusting nature had made this affair possible, but lately, it also made me feel something uncomfortably close to guilt. I pushed that feeling aside. I deserved happiness, didn't I? I deserved passion and excitement after years of domestic routine. "Want me to make you some chamomile tea?" he offered, already moving toward the dresser to change clothes. "That's sweet, but I'm fine, really." As Nathan disappeared into the walk-in closet, I caught a faint whiff of Julian's cologne still lingering in the air. My pulse quickened, but Nathan showed no sign of noticing. He emerged in his usual sleepwear, navy blue cotton pajamas that screamed suburban dad. "How's Ella?" I asked, desperate to fill the silence with normal conversation. "She's good. Asked about you at dinner, though. Wanted to know why Mummy's been working so late recently." His tone was casual, but something in his expression made me defensive. "I told you, this project is consuming my life right now. Once it's done, things will go back to normal." I know. Just miss having family dinners together, that's all." Nathan climbed into bed beside me, and I fought the urge to move away. The sheets where Julian had been lying just minutes ago now held my husband's familiar weight. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I felt more annoyed than ashamed. "Maybe this weekend we can do something special with Ella," I suggested, hoping to deflect any further questions about my schedule. "That would be nice. She's been asking to go to that new trampoline park." As Nathan settled in to sleep, I stared at the ceiling, my mind still racing from the close call. Julian had texted me earlier that day with a photo of lingerie he wanted to see me in. Black lace that was completely different from the practical cotton underwear Nathan preferred. The contrast between my two worlds felt intoxicating. My phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. A message from Julian. "Made it to my car. That was too close. We need to talk." I deleted the message immediately and set the phone face down, but not before noticing Nathan's eyes were still open, staring at the ceiling in the darkness. "Everything all right?" I whispered. "Yeah, just thinking about work stuff." But something in his voice suggested he was thinking about more than spreadsheets and project timelines. As I drifted off to sleep, I made a mental note to be more careful. The last thing I needed was Nathan becoming suspicious when I was finally feeling alive again. The next morning brought our usual routine, Nathan making coffee while I got Ella ready for school. Our daughter was a miniature version of her father, with the same green eyes and thoughtful expression. She chatted about her upcoming science project while I braided her hair, completely oblivious to the tension crackling between her parents. "Daddy, why do you look sad?" Ella asked suddenly, her child's intuition cutting through our careful pretense of normalcy. Nathan forced a smile. "Just tired, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." But I caught the look he gave me over Ella's head, a look that suggested my husband might not be as oblivious as I'd assumed. The Data Tech Solutions office buzzed with its usual Monday morning energy, but I felt Julian's presence before I saw him. He was waiting by my cubicle with 2 coffee cups and an expression that meant business. "We need to talk," he said quietly, glancing around to make sure our co-workers weren't paying attention. "Conference room B is empty until 10. Julian Masters was everything Nathan wasn't: spontaneous, passionate, dangerous. At 29, he had the kind of magnetic confidence that made women notice him across crowded rooms. His dark hair was always perfectly styled, his suits tailored to show off his athletic build, and his smile held promises of excitement that my marriage had been missing for years. "Good morning to you too," I said, accepting the coffee with a flirtatious smile. "Someone's dramatic today." "Isolde, I'm serious. Last night was too close. What if your husband had come upstairs immediately? What if he'd heard something?" I led him toward the conference room, my heels clicking confidently on the polished floor. Several colleagues looked up as we passed, and I wondered what they saw: 2 co-workers discussing a project or something more obvious. Conference room B was a sterile space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I closed the door and activated the privacy glass with the touch of a button, instantly obscuring us from outside view. "Julian, you're overreacting," I said, settling into a chair across from him. "Nathan didn't suspect anything. He never does." "How can you be so calm about this?" Julian ran his hands through his hair, messing up his perfect styling. "I barely made it out that window. My jacket got caught on the gutter, and I dropped my phone in your neighbor's bushes." "Did you get it back?" "That's not the point, Isolde. The point is we're playing with fire, and I'm starting to think the risk isn't worth it." His words stung more than I expected. For 3 months, Julian had been my escape from the mundane reality of suburban motherhood. He made me feel desired, alive, important in ways Nathan never had. The thought of losing that excitement terrified me. "So, what are you saying? You want to end this?" Julian's expression softened as he reached across the table to touch my hand. "I'm saying we need to be smarter. Maybe we should cool things off for a while, let any suspicion die down." "There is no suspicion," I insisted. "Nathan trusts me completely. He always has." Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're taking advantage of a good man who doesn't deserve this. I pulled my hand away, anger flaring in my chest. Don't you dare lecture me about my marriage. You don't know what it's like living with someone who thinks dinner at Olive Garden is the height of romance. Someone who's content with the same routine, the same conversations, the same boring life year after year. So why don't you just leave him? The question hung in the air between us like a challenge. Why didn't I leave Nathan? The honest answer was complicated. Financial security, Ella's stability, the fear of starting over at 32. But admitting those things would make me sound calculating rather than passionate. It's not that simple. There's Ella to consider and the house and you want to have your cake and eat it too, Julian finished, his tone sharper than usual. That's not fair. Isn't it? You want the security of marriage and the excitement of an affair. You want Nathan to keep being the reliable provider while you get your thrills elsewhere. His words cut deep because they held an uncomfortable grain of truth. But I wasn't ready to examine my motives too closely. I thought you understood what this was, I said coolly. I thought you wanted the same thing, passion without complications. Julian sighed and leaned back in his chair. I did. I do. But last night made me realize how messy this could get. What happens if we get caught? What happens to your daughter? We won't get caught if we're careful. Like we were careful last night. A knock on the conference room door interrupted our argument. Through the frosted glass, I could see the outline of our supervisor, Margaret Chen. Come in, I called, quickly switching to professional mode. Margaret entered with a stack of files and her usual no-nonsense expression. Isolde, I need you to review these client satisfaction surveys by noon. Julian, the Morrison account needs your attention. They're threatening to switch providers. Of course, I said smoothly. I'll have the analysis ready within the hour. As Margaret left, Julian and I sat in awkward silence. The spell of our private world had been broken by the intrusion of real responsibilities. We should get back to work, Julian said finally. Julian, wait. I reached for his arm as he stood to leave. Don't let one close call ruin what we have. I need this. I need you. For a moment, his resolve wavered. I could see the desire in his eyes, the same hunger that had drawn us together in the first place. But then he shook his head. I need some time to think, Isolde. This is getting too complicated. He left me alone in the conference room, staring at my reflection in the darkened windows. For the first time since our affair began, I felt truly vulnerable. Julian was my lifeline to excitement, to feeling desirable and alive. Without him, I'd be trapped in my suffocating marriage with no escape. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Hope you have a good day at work. Love you. I stared at the message, feeling a confusing mix of guilt and resentment. Nathan's unwavering devotion should have been comforting, but instead, it felt like a weight around my neck. He loved the version of me that existed in his mind, the faithful wife, the devoted mother, the woman who was content with their quiet suburban life. But that woman was disappearing, replaced by someone who craved passion and adventure. Someone who deserved more than Tuesday night dinners at chain restaurants and Saturday mornings at Home Depot. I deleted Nathan's message without responding and returned to my desk, determined to find a way to keep Julian interested. The alternative, returning to my old life completely, was unthinkable. So, Isolde, how's work treating you these days? My mother, Vivian, asked, with that knowing smile she'd perfected over 58 years of meddling in other people's business. We were gathered at Benedetto's, the local Italian bistro, where our family had been having monthly dinners for the past 5 years. The restaurant's warm lighting and intimate atmosphere usually made these gatherings pleasant, but tonight felt different. Tension crackled beneath the surface of polite conversation. Busy as always, I replied, twirling pasta around my fork while avoiding Nathan's gaze. The new client retention project is consuming my life. My sister Maya, 36 and perpetually judgmental, raised an eyebrow. Seems like work has been consuming your life a lot lately. When's the last time you made it to one of Ella's soccer games? I've been to several games, I said defensively, though I couldn't actually remember the last one I'd attended. 2 games, Nathan corrected quietly. Out of 8 this season. The table fell silent except for the clinking of silverware. My father, Alan, focused intently on his chicken parmesan, clearly uncomfortable with the brewing conflict. Ella colored on her kids' menu, oblivious to the adult tension swirling around her. Well, someone has to pay for those soccer cleats and tournament fees, I said with a laugh that sounded forced even to my ears. Not all of us can afford to prioritize leisure time over career advancement. Maya's husband, Tom, Nathan's older brother, set down his wine glass with a sharp clink. Since when is watching your daughter play soccer considered leisure time? Tom, Nathan warned quietly, but his brother's loyalty was already activated. No, Nathan, someone needs to say it. Isolde's been acting like her family is some kind of burden lately. That's ridiculous, I snapped, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. I'm working hard to provide for my family. Some people would appreciate having a wife who's ambitious and driven. Ambitious is one thing, Maya said carefully, but you've missed Ella's parent-teacher conference, her school play, and last weekend's birthday party for her best friend. I had work commitments. On a Saturday? Tom's voice carried clear skepticism. I felt my mother's hand on my arm, her rings clicking against the table. Now, everyone calm down. Isolde is a modern woman with modern priorities. Not everyone is content being a traditional housewife. The insult was clearly directed at Maya, who had chosen to work part-time so she could be more present for her own children. My mother had never approved of what she saw as Maya's lack of ambition. There's nothing wrong with prioritizing family, Maya shot back. Some things are more important than climbing the corporate ladder. Easy to say when your husband makes enough to support that choice, I replied, immediately regretting the petty comment. Nathan's jaw tightened. Are you saying I don't provide adequately for our family? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean exactly? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Around us, other diners continued their conversations, unaware of our family drama playing out over breadsticks and marinara sauce. I meant that some of us have to work harder to achieve our goals, I said, choosing my words carefully. Not everyone is content with settling. The word hit Nathan like a physical blow. I saw him flinch, saw the hurt flash across his green eyes before he carefully composed his expression. Settling, he repeated quietly. Is that what you think our marriage is? Settling? Nathan, I didn't say that. You didn't have to. My phone buzzed with a text message. Without thinking, I glanced at it. A mistake that would cost me dearly. Julian had sent a photo of the hotel room where we'd met the previous week, with the caption, "Missing this afternoon already." I quickly flipped the phone face down, but not before Tom caught the guilty look on my face. Important work message? Tom asked, his tone loaded with suspicion. Just a client follow-up, I lied smoothly. You know how it is. Business doesn't stop for family dinner. Mummy, why is everyone mad? Ella asked suddenly, looking up from her coloring with confused eyes. The question broke through our adult posturing like a knife. Here we were, arguing about priorities and commitments, while the most important person at the table, the child we all claimed to care about, watched us tear each other apart. Nobody's mad, sweetheart, Nathan said gently, reaching over to smooth Ella's hair. Sometimes grown-ups disagree about things, but that doesn't mean we don't love each other. His capacity for grace in difficult moments used to be one of the things I loved about him. Tonight, it just made me feel smaller. Your daddy's right, I added, forcing a smile for Ella's benefit. We're just having a discussion about schedules and work stuff, very boring grown-up things. But Ella wasn't fooled. At 7, she was already developing the emotional intelligence that would serve her well in life, assuming her parents didn't screw it up completely. The rest of dinner passed in strained politeness. My mother regaled us with stories from her book club, clearly trying to restore harmony. My father asked Nathan about his latest project, grateful for neutral territory. Maya and Tom exchanged meaningful looks that suggested they'd be having their own conversation about me later. As we waited for the check, my phone buzzed again. This time I ignored it, but the damage was already done. Nathan had noticed my earlier reaction, and I could see the wheels turning in his methodical mind. "We should probably head home," Nathan said, as the waiter brought our receipt. "Ella has school tomorrow." "Of course," I agreed, eager to escape the suffocating atmosphere of family judgment. As we gathered our coats and said our goodbyes, Maya pulled me aside. "Isolde, I'm worried about you," she said quietly. "This isn't like you. The missed events, the defensive attitude, the constant phone checking. What's really going on?" For a moment, I considered telling her everything. Maya and I had shared secrets as children, covered for each other through teenage mistakes and young adult disasters. But this felt different, bigger, and more dangerous. "Nothing's going on except work stress and family pressure," I said. "I'm fine, Maya, really." She studied my face with the same intensity she'd used to catch me in lies when we were kids. "You know you can talk to me, right? Whatever it is, we can figure it out together." "There's nothing to figure out." Maya sighed and hugged me goodbye, but I felt her reluctance to let the subject drop. The drive home was silent except for Ella's chatter about her upcoming science project. Nathan responded to our daughter with his usual patience and interest, but I could feel his emotional distance, like a physical barrier between us. Once Ella was tucked into bed, Nathan and I found ourselves alone in our kitchen. The same kitchen where we'd planned our wedding, celebrated job promotions, and shared countless ordinary moments that had somehow stopped feeling like enough. "We need to talk," Nathan said, pouring himself a glass of water with deliberate movements. "About what?" "About whatever's happening with you. With us." I busied myself loading the dishwasher, avoiding his penetrating gaze. "I don't know what you mean." "Isolde, please, don't insult my intelligence. Something has changed, and I think we both know it." The moment of truth had arrived sooner than I'd expected. I could continue lying, continue deflecting, or I could find a way to turn this conversation to my advantage. "You're right," I said finally. "Something has changed. I have." Nathan set down his water glass and gave me his full attention. "I'm not the same person I was when we got married, Nathan. I have different needs now, different dreams. I feel like I'm suffocating in this life we've built." "What kind of different needs?" The question was fair, but I wasn't ready to answer it honestly. "I need excitement, adventure. I need to feel like I'm living instead of just existing." "And you can't feel that way with me?" The hurt in his voice almost broke my resolve. Almost. "It's not about you specifically, Nathan. It's about us, about this routine we've fallen into. We're like roommates who happen to share a child." "So, what are you saying? You want a divorce?" The word hung between us like a loaded gun. Did I want a divorce? The honest answer was that I wanted everything: the security of marriage, the thrill of an affair, the freedom to explore who I was becoming without losing what I'd already built. "I don't know what I want," I said, which was both true and completely inadequate. Nathan nodded slowly, as if he'd expected this answer. "Well," he said quietly, "I guess we both have some thinking to do." He left me standing in the kitchen, surrounded by the detritus of our family dinner and the wreckage of our conversation. For the first time since my affair with Julian began, I wondered if I was making a terrible mistake. But then my phone buzzed with another message from Julian, and the familiar thrill of forbidden excitement pushed my doubts aside. I had planned everything perfectly for Thursday evening. Nathan's client dinner would run until at least 10 o'clock. It always did when he met with the Patterson group. Ella was sleeping over at her best friend's house. The timing was ideal for Julian to finally see our bedroom, to experience the intimacy of my real life rather than sterile hotel rooms. This feels different, Julian said as I led him up the stairs to the second floor. Being in your actual home. Good different or bad different? I asked, my hand trailing along the banister Nathan had refinished himself 2 summers ago. Dangerous different. The master bedroom was my sanctuary, decorated in soft greys and whites with touches of silver that caught the lamplight. The king-size bed dominated the space, covered in the Egyptian cotton sheets I'd bought despite Nathan's protests about the expense. This is where you sleep with him, Julian observed, his voice carrying a strange mix of excitement and discomfort. Don't think about that, I said, moving closer to him. Think about us. About right now. For the next hour, I forgot about Nathan, about Ella, about the complicated web of lies that had brought us to this moment. Julian made me feel alive in ways I'd forgotten were possible. Every touch was electric, every whispered word a validation of the woman I was becoming. We were lying tangled in the sheets, Julian's head on my shoulder, when I heard the unmistakable sound of Nathan's car in the driveway. Oh God, I breathed, my blood turning to ice. He's home early. Julian bolted upright, his face pale with panic. What time is it? 8:30. He shouldn't be home for hours. The front door opened downstairs, and I heard Nathan call out, Isolde, I'm home. Bathroom window, I hissed, already scrambling for my clothes. Now. Julian grabbed his pants and shirt, not bothering with underwear or socks, in his desperation to escape. I threw on my silk robe and tried to smooth my hair, my heart pounding so hard I was sure Nathan would hear it from downstairs. Isolde? Nathan's voice was closer now, his footsteps on the stairs. Coming, I called back, praying my voice sounded normal. Just getting out of the shower. I heard the bathroom window slide open as Julian made his escape. The sound seemed impossibly loud in the quiet house. Nathan appeared in the bedroom doorway just as I was tying my robe belt. His dark hair was disheveled, his tie loosened, and his expression carried an exhaustion that seemed deeper than usual. Hey, I said, forcing a bright smile. You're home early. How was dinner? Patterson cancelled at the last minute, Nathan replied, his green eyes scanning the room with an attention to detail that made my stomach clench. Said his wife was feeling sick. Oh no, I hope it's nothing serious. Nathan moved to the dresser, beginning his nightly ritual of emptying his pockets. Keys, wallet, loose change, each item placed in its designated spot with the methodical precision that defined his personality. The room smells different, he said casually, not looking at me. My heart stopped. Different how? Like perfume, but not your usual perfume. Think fast, I told myself. Stay calm and control the narrative. I was trying that new body wash Maya gave me for my birthday, I said. It's stronger than I expected. I might go back to my regular brand. Nathan nodded, but his expression remained thoughtful. He walked to the bed and paused, his hand hovering over the rumpled comforter. Did you change the sheets today? This morning, yes. Why? No reason, just wondering. But I could see him processing details, the way the pillows were arranged, the slight disarray of the bedside table, the faint indentation on Julian's side of the bed. I'm going to grab a shower, Nathan said finally. Long day. As soon as he disappeared into the bathroom, I frantically smoothed the bedding and opened the window to air out the room. My phone buzzed with a text from Julian. Made it to my car. That was too close. We need to stop this. I deleted the message immediately, but not before noticing Nathan had left his phone on the dresser, something he never did. Usually, it went straight to the charging station on his nightstand. The shower was running, but I had the unsettling feeling that Nathan was paying more attention than usual. When he emerged 20 minutes later, his hair damp and his expression unreadable, I was sitting in bed with a book, trying to project normalcy. Everything okay? I asked as he settled beside me. Fine, just tired. But Nathan didn't seem tired. He seemed alert, watchful in a way that made me nervous. How was your evening? He asked. What did you do while I was gone? Nothing exciting. Watched some Netflix, did a little work, took a long bath. Nathan reached for his phone and began scrolling through messages. Ella called from Sarah's house. She's having a great time at the sleepover. Good, she was so excited about it. We settled into our respective sides of the bed, but the usual comfort of our nightly routine felt strained. I could sense Nathan's mind working, processing the inconsistencies he'd noticed. My phone buzzed again, another message from Julian that I quickly silenced. Popular tonight, Nathan observed. Just work stuff. You know how clients can be. No respect for business hours. Must be important if they're texting at 9 p.m. Not really. Just follow-up questions about the quarterly report. Nathan set his phone aside and turned toward me, his green eyes studying my face with uncomfortable intensity. Isolde, can I ask you something? My throat went dry. Of course. Are you happy? I mean, really happy with our life together? The question caught me off guard. I'd expected suspicion about my evening activities, not this deeper inquiry into our relationship. That's a loaded question, I said carefully. I know, but I need to hear your honest answer. I looked at my husband, really looked at him, and saw the vulnerability beneath his calm exterior. Nathan was a good man, a devoted father, a faithful partner. He deserved better than what I was giving him. But acknowledging that truth would mean giving up the excitement that had become essential to my happiness. I think happiness is complicated, I said finally. I love you and Ella, but sometimes I feel like I'm disappearing into this life we've built, like I'm losing myself in being a wife and mother. Nathan nodded slowly. And what would make you feel more like yourself? It was a fair question that I couldn't answer honestly. I don't know yet, I admitted, but I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, Nathan said quietly. I can respect that. Just promise me something. What? Promise me that whatever you're going through, whatever you're trying to figure out, you'll be honest with me. And with Ella. We're a family, Isolde. We should face things together. The irony of his request, asking for honesty while I was actively deceiving him, made my chest tighten with guilt. I promise, I lied. Nathan kissed my forehead and settled back into his pillow, but I could tell sleep wouldn't come easily for either of us. As I lay in the darkness, listening to Nathan's breathing gradually slow, I realized our marriage had reached a crossroads. The close call with Julian had shaken something loose, not just in my affair, but in the careful balance I'd been trying to maintain. My phone buzzed one more time. Another message from Julian. I can't do this anymore, Isolde. It's over. I stared at the words until they blurred, feeling the foundation of my secret life cracking beneath me. But instead of relief, all I felt was a desperate determination to hold on to the one thing that made me feel truly alive. Julian might be scared, but I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. 3 weeks had passed since Julian's declaration that our affair was over, but I refused to accept defeat. If he wouldn't meet me in private anymore, I'd find other ways to keep our connection alive. Social media had become my weapon of choice, a way to flaunt what we'd shared and remind him of what he was giving up. I carefully selected the photo from our last hotel encounter, Julian and me at the mirror, his arms around my waist, both of us laughing at something he'd whispered in my ear. We looked happy, alive, perfect together. The kind of couple that made other people jealous. Living my best life with this amazing man, I typed as the caption, adding heart emojis and tagging Julian before he could stop me. The post went live on Instagram at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right in the middle of the workday when I knew Nathan would be too busy to check social media. But other people weren't too busy. Within minutes, the likes and comments started rolling in. "Who's the hottie?" asked my college roommate Jennifer. "Get it, girl," commented my cousin Lisa. But it was Maya's comment that made my stomach drop. "Isolde, what the hell is this?" I quickly deleted Maya's comment, but the damage was already done. My sister had seen the post, which meant she'd probably screenshot it before I could take it down entirely. My phone rang immediately. Maya's name flashed on the screen, and I knew I was in trouble. "Don't answer that," Julian hissed, appearing at my cubicle with fury written across his face. "What the hell were you thinking posting that photo?" "I was thinking about us," I replied, letting Maya's call go to voicemail. "About what we had together." "What we had is over, Isolde. I made that clear." "Did you? Because the way I remember it, you were scared by one close call. That doesn't mean what we feel for each other has disappeared." Julian ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair, a gesture I'd once found endearing, but now recognized as a sign of his weakness. "You're married, Isolde. You have a child. This fantasy you're living isn't sustainable." "It's not a fantasy. It's the most real thing in my life." "Then maybe you need to take a hard look at your life and figure out what you really want." Before I could respond, Julian walked away, leaving me staring at my computer screen where the controversial post was still generating comments and reactions. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Call me back now, or I'm calling Nathan directly." I grabbed my purse and headed for the parking garage, needing privacy for the conversation that would determine whether my secret remained safe. Maya answered on the first ring. "What the hell was that photo, Isolde?" "What photo?" I tried, knowing it was useless but buying time to think. "Don't play dumb with me. The photo of you and some guy who definitely isn't your husband, with a caption about living your best life. I screenshotted it before you deleted it." My heart sank. Maya had evidence, which meant she held all the cards in this conversation. "It's not what it looks like," I said weakly. "Really? Because it looks like you're having an affair and posting about it on social media like a teenager." I closed my eyes and leaned against my car, feeling the weight of my choices pressing down on me. "Maya, please. You don't understand what my marriage has become. Nathan and I are like strangers living in the same house. So get counseling, get divorced, don't sneak around betraying a good man who loves you." "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple, Isolde. You made a choice to cheat instead of dealing with your problems like an adult." The judgment in my sister's voice triggered my defensive instincts. "Don't lecture me about adult choices, Maya. Not everyone can afford to play part-time career woman while their husband supports their lifestyle choices. This isn't about my career, and you know it. This is about you destroying your family for some office fling." "Julian isn't just some office fling. He makes me feel alive again. He sees me as more than just Nathan's wife or Ella's mother." "And what happens when Nathan finds out? What happens to Ella when her parents' marriage implodes because Mommy couldn't keep it in her pants?" The crude language shocked me. Maya never talked like that, which meant I'd pushed her further than I'd realized. "Nathan won't find out if you keep your mouth shut," I said coldly. "Are you seriously asking me to lie to my brother-in-law? To help you deceive a man who's been nothing but good to our family? I'm asking you to mind your own business. Isolde, listen to yourself. This isn't you. The sister I know wouldn't risk everything for some temporary excitement. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think you do." The silence stretched between us, filled with years of shared history and the growing chasm of our different values. "I'm going to give you 48 hours, Maya said finally. "Either you tell Nathan yourself or I will. He deserves to know what kind of woman he's married to." "Maya, please." 48 hours, Isolde. Don't make me choose between protecting you and doing what's right." She hung up, leaving me standing in the parking garage with the echo of her ultimatum ringing in my ears. That evening, Nathan was unusually quiet during dinner. He helped Ella with her homework, supervised her bath time, and read her bedtime story with his usual patience, but I could sense his distraction. "Everything okay?" I asked as we cleaned up the kitchen together. "Fine," he replied, but his tone suggested otherwise. "Work problems?" Nathan paused in loading the dishwasher, his hand stilling on a dinner plate. "Actually, yes. There's been some interesting information brought to my attention today." My blood went cold. "What kind of information?" "The kind that makes a man question everything he thought he knew about his life." Nathan's green eyes met mine across the kitchen island, and I saw something I'd never seen before, a cold calculation that reminded me he was more than just the steady, predictable husband I'd taken for granted. "Nathan, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" He pulled out his phone and began scrolling through something, his expression unreadable. "You know, Isolde, I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About our conversation at dinner with your family. About the changes I've noticed in you. About the late nights and the phone calls, and the general sense that my wife has become a stranger. I told you, work has been demanding, yes, you've mentioned that. But here's the thing about being a project manager. I'm very good at gathering data and analyzing patterns." Nathan set his phone on the counter, screen side up. I couldn't see what he was looking at, but his posture suggested he was holding cards I didn't know he had. "What patterns?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Phone records, credit card statements, GPS data from your car, social media activity." Each item on his list hit me like a physical blow. Nathan had been investigating me, gathering evidence like I was some kind of corporate fraud case. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been protecting myself, Isolde. There's a difference." The kitchen suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in around us. "I don't know what you think you've discovered, but I think I've discovered that my wife is having an affair with her coworker, Julian Masters. I think I've discovered that she's been lying to me for months, and I think I've discovered that the woman I married no longer exists." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Nathan's voice remained calm, controlled, but I could see the pain beneath his composed exterior. "Nathan, let me explain." "No explanations, Isolde. I'm done with explanations. I'm done with lies. And I'm done with this marriage." He picked up his phone and walked toward the stairs, leaving me standing alone in our kitchen with the wreckage of my secret life scattered around me. For the first time since my affair began, I realized I might have miscalculated everything. The manila envelope showed up on a random Tuesday morning while I was holding a paper cup of office coffee, and with one polite signature, my whole life tilted off its axis. Inside were Nathan's divorce papers, color-tabbed, perfectly organized, and absolutely devastating. Adultery, neglect, wasted money, GPS logs, screenshots, hotel bills. He hadn't just decided to leave me, he'd built an airtight case to make sure I couldn't take him or our daughter down with me. The worst part wasn't the accusation of cheating, it was the custody section. Nathan asking for primary custody of Ella, with me downgraded to supervised visitation, until I could prove I was stable enough not to use my own child as background noise for my next bad decision. Julian saw the papers, saw his name all over them, and did exactly what men like him always do. Backed away and pretended he'd never promised anything. Suddenly, "I love you" became, "I never signed up for this," and I was left alone at my desk with legal tabs and a ruined life. Every lawyer I spoke to said the same thing. Nathan had the facts, the timeline, the receipts. My intentions didn't matter next to the reality of missed events, skipped games, and nights I chose hotel rooms over bedtime stories. Telling Ella about the divorce broke whatever was left of me. She asked if it was her fault, and I had to hold her while knowing the fault was entirely mine. Nathan calmly explained she'd stay in her same house, same room, same school, with him. I'd be the one leaving. The court agreed. He got primary custody, I got alternate weekends, and a court monitor watching me prove I could act like a mother instead of an overgrown teenager chasing attention. Watching Ella cling to Nathan and look at me like I was someone who might disappear at any moment hurt more than any judge's ruling. Months later, in my small rented apartment with its mismatched furniture and 2 quiet evenings, I scrolled through pictures of Ella smiling next to a volcano project Nathan had helped her build. They looked like a complete family, and I was a visitor orbiting the edges. When Nathan called to say Ella wanted me at her soccer tournament, he made it clear. "This isn't for you, Isolde, it's for her. Be a good mother. That's all that matters now." the affair, the thrill, the love I thought I'd found with Julian. All of it had evaporated. What remained were consequences and a little girl who still wanted her mother on the sidelines. It's not the life I pictured when I first let Julian kiss me in that hotel room. It's the life I bought with every lie, every missed bedtime, every time I chose a rush over responsibility. I can't undo what I did, but I can show up now, with no filters, no audience, just Ella and a second chance I don't deserve but refuse to waste.